TipTut.
Hello everybody and welcome back to TipTut. This is part 2 of my advanced isometric tutorial series. Last time we made what you see in front of you, which looks pretty much finished. But if you notice the bottom segment here and the right segment here, they've got all of their 3D elements added in, okay? Whereas at the moment the top is still very flat. What we did last time is we made the shapes based off of these flat elements here, and we turned them isometric, and then we spent a long time coming in and making in all these lovely details like the 3D cog, the external connector, all this 3D type, and lovely stuff like that. The last thing we've got to do now, though, is do all of that stuff again, but on this top layer here. I'm going to try and fast forward less than I did in the last one, and I'm basically going to do the whole bottom of this Game Boy without too much fast forwarding. I'll probably fast forward through this bit though, because that's the same as what we did last time, and it's pretty boring. However, let's just dive right in and start with the nice easy bits, okay? Now, I'm taking a little bit of liberty with the original source material. For example, I think this will look nice if this is actually grooved in flat like this. Okay, whereas on the original Game Boy, of course, it was a slight sort of curve, but I don't think that's going to look as good on our isometric style. So this isn't going to be 1000% accurate to the original Game Boy, just 99%, 100%, 9%, 1%, whatever you want. Who cares? We're having fun. Let's take our shape builder tool and remove that bottom segment. And there you go, nice and simple. We have set that into the Game Boy. Making these buttons is going to be really easy. All we need to do is grab both of these and raise them up to the point where we think the button thickness looks about right, okay? Again, we could go through and measure this if we wanted to, if we had an original Game Boy lying around, because it's going to be pretty accurate. But I'm just going to do it to a point where I'm happy with and take a few artistic liberties. I think that's about right. However, we are going to want these buttons to be the same height as the D-pad and stuff, so we will come through and measure the height of the lines we're going to make next. Grab your pen tool and roll around here until you get a nice intersect with the center of the circle, and then just click and do the same until you intersect with the center of the circle below and intersect with the edge of the line, and you've got the edge of your button. Okay, if you want to, you can just grab this, move over to the other side and duplicate, and your job is done. But with smart guides, I sometimes get a bit confused and you can't line it up. So as soon as it's one line, you might as well just come in and do it manually, like so. Now, for the rest of this, just so that we don't get confused with line thicknesses and things, I'm going to come in and turn to outline mode. Doesn't look too different, but it gives you a little bit of an easier picture of what shapes actually remain. Okay, let's do the same thing on this button, and then we'll use our shape builder tool to remove all the segments we don't need, or merge all of the segments that we don't need. Okay, come in here like this. These buttons are nice and simple. They're just two flat shapes. I know the original might have a little bit of a curved edge, so we could add that in if we wanted to, which we might do. We can take this guy here. We can copy and paste in place. If we shrink him down just a little bit, holding Alt and Shift, and then move him up a little bit as well. All we'd need to do to make this look like it's got a rounded top is, first of all, do it on both buttons. So what I'll actually do is do it at the same time so that I know I'm getting it exactly the same. We can move these up and then shrink them down, and then that way they'll stay central. So if we move them up a little bit, maybe that amount, and then individually shrink them so they stay central to their own buttons, like so. Okay, shrink them just a little bit. So all we need to do is remember that the original value is whatever, 692 on the width, and we can shrink it to whatever looks good, 668, and then we'll do the same thing here. 692 becomes 668. Okay. Now, we're quite lucky, and these shapes already line up to the edges, so we don't actually have to create any more vertical lines like this, which is good for us. So let's grab all of our button elements here and all of our button elements here, and go to our shape builder tool, and we can now start merging these into the bits that we need. We know that this whole segment is going to be one plane, but you can see that these don't actually line up. I've done something wrong in that I can't select these as their own individual shapes. So what I need to do is come in and make sure that these lines actually overlap a little bit. And to do that, I'm just going to shimmy it in a tiny amount. This is going to create an overlap, okay, but you're probably not going to see much of it by the human eye, okay? But what it will do is it will allow me, unless I just didn't select them. I may not have actually selected them because I'm pretty sure I got them correct. Let's see. Let's just drag over everything here and then build a shape builder. And then come in and, yeah, I just didn't select them properly because that guy can actually exist now. Click like this. Yeah, that guy exists as well. Okay, I didn't just select my extra lines. That makes my life a lot easier. Click and drag. Oops. Click and drag. There we go. Like so. To merge those three shapes together, we know that this shape and this shape need to be one, and that all of these need to be the top of our button. And then if you zoom in real close, you can see obviously the edges of our little recess there have accidentally filled in the edges of our button. So we'll just come in like so and fix that. And if you zoom in real close, yeah, that's fine. Okay. Now if we have a look, we've got our raised button with our little edge on it as well. All we need to do is the exact same thing on this one. If you want to check what it looks like in GPU preview, you can. Okay, grab all of these guys, go over to our shape builder tool, merge all of these shapes together. Oops, messed that one up. Let's just extend this line through. Hopefully that will link up. And we can just remove the extraneous line later. No, it does not. Okay, that is fine. So you get this sometimes where it's not perfectly linked up and actually attached to the line. So we'll just do that until the two paths go green. That perfectly attaches it to the line, or at least it should. And then when you go to your shape builder tool, it'll prove me wrong and I'll look like an idiot. Okay, so we'll just grab our little line here. We can extend it through again, and we can just shimmy him ever so slightly in. Okay, ever so slightly in there, like that. And that'll just link those two shapes up. Shape builder, grab this guy, and now that little dude, and then grab this little dude and this little dude. Fill in all of these little dudes. And then go and fix these sections here. That bit's fine. This bit needs a quick fix. And we need to be able to remove that segment like so. And voila, we have our two raised buttons. The rest of this, pretty much the same thing. We can go through and do the DPad, select and start and stuff like that as well. So we're just going to dive right into it. But that is all there is to it once you've made that flat virtual plane. This bit was way more complicated than the top because this is nice and simple. But last episode, I explained the cog, which is the most complicated thing. And if you've got the cog, then you'll easily be able to do the rest. And you'll easily be able to do it for whatever design you're making as well. Okay, let's do these start buttons next, because I think they're nice and simple. But if I remember correctly, they're actually rubber, like hard, soft-edged ones. So we will shrink this up by 1.15. So again, let's take both of these, the start button and the select button. Raise these up by about that much. That'll do. Let's again give these a little bit of a recess just because I think it looks all right. Double check the recess is roughly the same size. Yes, it is. And let's quickly fix these recesses before we do too much with the button by just doing that. And then we're good to go. Okay. Let's take this and this guy and let's shrink them down a little bit. Maybe to 6.2, maybe then a bit further, 5.8, 5.81. Oops, that's too small. Lots of things snapping to lots of things. 5.85, nearly. 5.77. That'll do. Who cares? They don't have to be exactly the same as each other. These ones are going to be nice and simple. All we need to do is just manually create a point where they intersect. So let's grab this intersection here. Go down to the path here, making sure they're both green. Let's just create ourselves a little curved line. Okay. And let's do the same on the other side. Grab a nice intersection point, maybe there. Grab an intersection point here, shift them up a little bit. There we go. Now, in fact, if we wanted to illustrate how cool isometric stuff is we can delete this one. We can take all of these elements. In fact, let's take all of the whole thing. We can build the shape that we need with the shape builder. So we know that all of this and this. Oh, what's going on there? And that's not connected, that's why. So let's just bring this guy through. We know that once we create this, because it's isometric, this can be duplicated and offset, and it'll be perfectly in perspective wherever you move around. So if I take all of this, for example, let's group everything except the start, duplicate that until it overlaps the select button. And because of the perfect isometric view, that is still perfectly in perspective. Okay, we can delete all of this nonsense, shimmy that guy back down, and we've got the select and the start buttons done. I think they're a bit tall for the original Game Boy, but that's okay. I quite like them. Great, that's that bit done. But let's quickly create little recesses here for these sound holes. This is going to be nice and easy, hopefully. We can just grab all 6 of these, Control C, Control F, and then offset them a little bit down. Now make sure these go perfectly down, otherwise you're not going to be on correct perspectives, like so. And then, like I said, this one's nice and simple. Go to your shape builder tool and just remove all of those bits. Job done. Not too bad. Happy, happy, happy. Okay, the next bit then is going to be this D-pad, which might be a bit more complicated because we've got to do all of these little tiny ridge sections and stuff as well on top of this. So let's just jump right into it and see how we get on. What I'm going to do first is just group this and go inside the group so I'm not accidentally selecting anything else for now. Now this is actually a recess here into the Game Boy. And this is the bottom of our D-pad. So the first thing we need to do is shift this up. And I think the height of this button was about 1.5 or 1.6. Let's see. Oh no, 1 millimeter. Not sure where I got that from. Let's grab this and let's shimmy him up 1 millimeter. Maybe a bit more, maybe a touch higher. 1.10 maybe. Let's leave it at 1 for now. And then we can copy, paste in place, and we're going to shrink this down just a little bit. And then shimmy him up just a little bit further. And that creates our little ridge, our flattened sort of roll off at the top of our D-pad here, okay? Now some of this is going to get a bit difficult to do if we keep looking at it. So we can quickly hide all those arrows to make our life a bit easier. We know that this circle is now redundant, so we can just remove it. And the rest of it we're going to need. So the next step is to create a whole bunch of vertical lines that connect all these elements up, okay? And then we can start thinking about where in the gutter we're going to see the vertical lines as well. So we need to go around, finding the edges of our paths, like so, and just linking them up like this. So making sure that it goes green when we click it. Is that too much? Maybe that's too much. Maybe it just needs 1 per edge. I think it'll just need 1 per edge here. So wherever the outermost edge of your D-pad is, find a point where the paths intersect and just fix them like that, okay? I'm going to do the whole bit of the top first and then come back around. So for here, for example, where there's no outer edge, you just need to pick a point that you're happy with, unless you wanted all this to be the same color, of course, and then you could just link up there, which is what I think I'm going to do, because that looks not too bad. And then that'll all be the same color, and then this outermost edge will come along and we can fix that up. Now, whilst we're not going to see this corner, I'm still going to do that because it's going to help me shape builder it later on. That corner's fine. This corner probably does need something, maybe from here to here, just to flatten it off a little bit, and that's okay, we can keep that. This one, again, just needs a little bit of a straight line in that corner. This one just needs a little bit just to flatten that off. So make sure that the line goes green so you know you're on the path. and goes green, so you know you're connected to the path. This one doesn't need anything, and this one will be hidden again, but we will just still put that anchor point in there, like so. Okay, that's the entire top of that done. Apart from this part here, needs something on the path to get it going, as does this side. Like so, that creates our nice little button there. Now we just need to link up the edges. Now all of these are going to have to be 100% vertical. All these are slanted, they're not at 30 or 150, but these are. So there'll be a point where both should intersect green and green. Okay, and then you can zoom all the way in and you'll know that they're lined up. Then we just need to go around and do these. You can add one here if you want to. Do I want to? Does that look good? Yeah, let's add it in there. And this one obviously is going to be an extension of that line. Basically, you want to make sure that you're roughly in the middle of the curve, sorry. And that when you're creating the paths, both sections are green when you click it. And that means that it should, theoretically, connect all of the elements together, like so. Okay. Path there, path here. No point doing that one because we're not going to see anything. No point doing that one because we're never going to see it. Or that one. But we'll do this one. And we'll do that. No point doing that one because it's going to be merged in a minute. And that one's finished. So let's quickly hide this layer underneath so that all we're left with is our D-pad. Okay, then we can select everything that we've got here and we can start shape building and merging our shapes together. Okay, let's start in the middle because that bit's nice and easy. We know that all of this is going to be the same shape. Okay, but we also know that these tiny little bits down here need to be the same shape as well. This tiny guy and this tiny guy. Perfect. There's the middle bit done. Okay, now this whole top segment needs to be one shape like that. And this bit also needs to come in and all be part of the top shape, like so. Okay, we're just doing the top shape for now, which means this is all part of the top shape as well. And that is the top of our D-pad done. We now need to come round and do these edges. So this guy and this guy need to be one shape. This needs to be a single shape. All of these are a single shape. This guy is a single shape. That dude under there as well. Should we end it there? Yeah, let's have them be the same color. And then let's keep that separate. So if we want to, we can have different shading. That needs to remain, which means this one just needs to be picked like so. And that one is a single shape there. Now let's do the edges. That's a single shape. That's a single shape. That's a single shape. That's a single shape. And we have our finished D-pad. It really is quite simple. It's very time consuming, of course, but very simple. Now it looks to me that's a little bit offset. Could just be because I'm dumb and I accidentally made it offset, but I'm going to leave it where it is because I know that it is mathematically correct. So let's bring back in our bottom here. And let's have a think about what elements we're going to be able to see of this, okay? So this is a little hole where the D-pad sits, meaning I could just make this dark and then the colors above it a little bit lighter and it'll look okay. Or if you wanted to be really correct about it, you could sever a line here, some here, here, and create shadows. I think that's going to be a bit too much though. So I think I'm going to call that a good job. Okay. Now it might be worth actually incorporating that little dip into the actual D-pad because it's not actually going to be that much trouble to do because all we need to do is merge this and this again and this again. Fix these little bits that we've broken by bringing it in. And all of a sudden our life is a lot easier. Okay. So we've got that hole that goes around like that. Should be a single shape. And those are fixed again. And then there we go. We've got all of our hidden D-pad elements as a single shape. Let's come out of that group And there's the D-pad done. Pretty much it, apart from we've got to do this strip along here at the top, and we've got to do this off and on segment as well. Let's just do them in slow motion so you guys get a good idea of how to do all this text in case you missed the last episode as well. So these little recesses need to just be dug into the Game Boy, okay? And this drop in height needs to be the same as any other drop in height that we've made so far. I think if we take this little segment we've got here, this one tiny little guy, practically the first thing we did, and we paste it up here, we should, once we've determined the height of this, be able to determine how far or how deep that's going to go into there. So we can keep this guy safe for now. And we need to find another vertical drop that we've done where we can see the whole thing. And I don't think we've actually got one. So what we can do now is we know how deep this segment is. So we know that this line is correct. Okay. So what we can do to determine the height is we can just make a really long line. And we can use our action to make it face the right way. Then if we align the end of this one with the end here, we know that crease, that crevice is correct. Meaning if we follow this all the way along and we made it long enough, which we did, we know how tall this line needs to be now. So we can just take this, making sure it goes 90 degrees until it intersects. Okay, we can then take this guy, line him up until it intersects, and then we can just shorten both of these off, making sure it stays on line extension so we know the angle hasn't changed. And intersect there. Okay, good. We can now get rid of this. Oops, not that whole bit though. Just that bit. And then we can come in with our scissors. We can cut ourselves a little section to be removed. And then we just need to bring these edges back in. Okay. Now we've got that crease there. We can do the rest of these following that information. Okay. So for example, we know that this height until it reaches the line here is going to be exactly the same as this height. So we can duplicate those and we can line it up. What am I doing? Or I can just click this. Trying my hardest to make it difficult for myself there. Once you've done that, we can then remove this segment here and create another line that comes along. So let's make this guy as tall as we need him for now. Okay, then we can probably take one more line like so, change the angle to the one that we need, hook it up there. Okay, that gives us the edge here. We can now just reduce these until they intersect. Okay, so it's all about sort of creating that first bit that you know is correct, and then the rest sort of follows suit from there. So whilst it seems daunting at first, hopefully by this point you've sort of got an understanding of how it works, and you know that it is really just a matter of having a bit of patience and just getting the job done. Oops, need to cut both of those because there is apparently two. From where I made the rectangle when I was first building this guy. So now we can get rid of both. There we go. Now all these little extra lines that we've got floating around because we've made shape builders or we've made rectangles from before and stuff, nothing to worry about. We'll be getting rid of those when we all turn it to a normal image anyway. So no worries there. Let's turn that one left. Drop him in position down here. And reduce the line extension until it fits. Okay, that bit is good. We now need to remove this tiny section here, like so, by cutting and cutting. You can cut on the anchor points, so I could cut on that corner exactly there, but I find it sort of messes itself up a little bit if you try that. So for the sake of an extra click or two, I don't really mind just doing it manually and lining these things up. So you can see that some of this stuff that I've done isn't actually lining up correctly, and that's no problem. the changes are so minor that unless you've got a magnifying glass, no one's ever going to see them. And when we convert this to pixels, when we export it, there's going to be some sub-pixeling anyway. So I wouldn't say it's really anything to worry about. Okay, that looks good. Apart from this little bit of line needs to just be a bit shorter. So we can remove that guy. Here. And then reduce him to go here, like that. And that's where the corner of that bit goes in. That is all now recessed. Last thing to do is just tidy up this segment here. Take this guy, delete it. And then because we know this is perfectly correct, we can just fill these back in. These ones that we've accidentally deleted here, don't tell anybody. Okay. Now these are going to be recessed in, so I'm not actually going to fix that bit straight away. What I'm going to do is just leave these gaps in for a moment and just fix that bit. Okay. Because I need to think about, these are actually the gaps and these are actually the prongs, if I believe I'm correct, which I might be, who knows? I also might be horrendously wrong. Let's find out. Finish off this segment for now by just grabbing your pen tool and filling it in like so. Do the same thing here. And do the same thing here. And then grab your line tool, make sure it's the right angle, and just line it up. So it's basically, no matter what you're doing, because it's perfectly isometrical, the process for creating any new lines is going to be the exact same thing, unless you're dumb like me and you mess it up. Yeah, the process of creating any new elements and lines is exactly the same, because they're all at the same angle. That's the beauty of isometric artwork. So we'll just link all these together like that. And then the last thing to do is link up this section. So we'll just create ourselves a little line. We can go left and crimp in and reduce the length. Okay, that looks good to me. All right, the last thing to do then is just to create this off and on bit in the same way as this foam bit goes down here. Okay, so it's 2 small prongs and 3 dips. Excuse me. First thing to do then is to create the dip. Okay. In that case, let's grab this element here and let's shimmy it down. Oops, I want direct selection tool there. Grab this guy and shimmy him down to the height that we're happy with. I'm going to say, well, let's find out how much the other one is to make sure it's correct. This one is 0.24 millimeters. So we can do 0.24 millimeters on this bit too. Okay, so grab this guy, like so. Shimmy him down 0.24. There we go, bit less than I thought it was. Now, easily enough to fix the first thing we see here, which is remove that segment. Okay, and now we've got to think about this bit, which is the difficult bit. Let's grab all of this first and create our duplicates for that. 0.24. Of course, it's going to make it difficult, so let's do 0.22 and then 0.24. There we go. And we'll come back to this bit in a second because we're going to try and figure out this part first. For this bit, we just need to come in and add some lines and then remove the bits that we know are going to be hidden. So these are the gaps, okay, which means we need to add in prongs here. These prongs come out. And this prong should go. So we'll reverse that around now, okay? That means that this guy can go as well, as can this point here. Then we're going to need to fill in a couple of these, like so. Now this anchor point here can go. We don't need that, as can this guy, like so. Might as well do these now whilst we know. And then we can start filling this back in here. Now this one's going a lot smoother than the first time I tried this back in episode 1. So we can already see I've learned something at least, which is the whole point of this. All right, so we've done that bit. The next bit is kind of easy, if a little bit intricate. So all we need to do now is just join up every vertical point that we can on this final part here. Okay, like so. Making sure again that all the bits are green when you're creating your anchor points, which means they are intersecting with that line and are connecting to it. Otherwise you could be slightly off and you'll just be floating about the place. Okay, keeping going through here. This is a hard tutorial to do because there's lots of just the same thing. And it's difficult to explain your thought process a little bit when you're clicking through this sort of stuff. Suffice to say, if you've been following along, you'll understand. But if you've been doing your own thing on this, then you should by now have a pretty solid knowledge of the theory behind how all this stuff sort of goes together. Because if you don't, then you probably wouldn't have gotten to the point where you are. So well done you. Pat yourself on the back. It's not a difficult thing, like I said. It's just very intricate and you need to take your time with it. But when you're done, you'll have a wicked Game Boy. So what more do you want? Everyone loves a Game Boy. Okay, so we've made our 3 different segments that we need here. I'm just going to skimmy this guy along, making sure it stays on the same axis, just so it looks like, oops, he's in the middle of the off and on, because I think I ballsed that up when I began. So let's do this. Put him about there. That look all right? Yeah, that looks much better. Okay, grab all of the elements that you need and go to your shape builder tool and then start filling in like we've done before, okay? Fixing all these things together. This guy, all of these guys, these amigos down there, and just filling in, okay? Now, there's not much to this, like I said before. Oops. You just gotta think about what you're doing. Make sure you don't just randomly click through, because each time you do this, you're generating anchor points, which is how compositions get cluttered and how they get unwieldy and difficult to manage. So whatever you're doing, just take your time. Oops. And make sure to get it right. Okay. The top of that triangle should be visible there in front of the N. So that's there, and that's there, and that's there, that's there, and that's there. Pretty sure that is it. And I think we are done with our 3D Game Boy. Look at that. That is detailed. Now, let's see what it looks like in the non-outline mode, because we may have ballsed up. No, you know what? Not bad. I'm happy with that. Make sure that all your strokes are the same thickness, which for me is going to be near 0.1. You've got no fills anywhere. And outline that text so you know you got it right. And voila. That is it. You've made your Game Boy. It is now completely lined, completely isometric. And hot damn, does it look good. So the next thing to do is take everything that you've done and duplicate it. Okay. We're then going to group all this together just so we've got something easy to work with. And for the sake of my sanity, I'm going to stick it on its own layer. And I'm going to call this one Shape Built Game Boy. Now, there may be some points in here, almost certainly, where your lines don't match up. Okay, I think I saw one over here. It looks fine, but when you go to outline mode, some of the bits just don't quite line up. And when you come to the shape builder bit now, you'll realize how that's a problem. But that is why we do this step. The next step then, before you can actually color it, is to go through this entire thing, okay, and make sure that every plane, every face on this item is an actual shape. So let's start on the easy bits, okay? When you hover over something and it fills it, great, give it a click, okay? Make sure that you're filling the areas that you want. And what this does is you're just going through and ensuring that everything that you've made here is a closed off and finished segment. So here, for example, I want to be able to color these different shapes, but I can't because this thinks it's one shape. This knows it's individual and this knows it's individual, which means that one of my paths here doesn't quite match up. Okay, and I'm going to guess it's some of these. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to line extend them. Going to select these guys again and go to my shape builder again. And no, still can't do it. Which means when I created these, because this is the first bit I didn't make sure it was green when I was anchoring my points together, okay, because I'm a big, big dummy. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to overlap these a little bit here. Now you could do this when it comes to, you know, coloring it later on, but I find with just a little bit of patience, you might as well do it now before you get to the final bit of coloring, okay. Grab those again, shape builder it again, and now you are getting somewhere, hopefully. Okay, if shape building doesn't work, you can use the scissor tool to intersect, which actually physically generates a point for you, meaning that when you select all of these again, you should then be able to make that shape. Although it's making me seem a fool by not working. Why is that? Let's figure it out. Let's not ignore it. Let's figure out what's wrong. If we delete that, that's got that whole segment. Is it because it's grouped together? No, it is because it is a single shape. So let's take all these bits here. And let's go to Pathfinder. And let's intersect them. And that is where the error is, there somewhere. So simplest thing to do, delete this guy. And start new with this guy here. Make sure it intersects the path. Make sure it intersects with the anchor. Select all of these, shape builder again, and we fixed it. Good going, us. All right, let's carry on then. Select everything again and shape builder. Now that you've seen what the process is, the rest of this is exactly the same. So I'm 100% going to fast forward through this bit because god damn, it's a pain in the busky. So I'll see you on the other side. Okay, we now have a completely solid shape that we can color however we want with no broken elements inside, which took a little bit of a long time, but that's okay. I've enjoyed working on this one. I'm just going to delete this dude because I know he's not messy anymore. We've got our original Game Boy, we've got our flat Game Boy over here, and we've now got our shape-built Game Boy on this section. I'm going to copy everything here, hide and lock, and just paste on a new layer in the middle. Our colored Game Boy. Color Game Boy. All right, let's scale this guy up a bit. Scaling corners on, scale strokes and effects off. Like so. And then, or maybe we should have scaled the stroke at least. Let's make this guy 0.25. There we go. I am pretty happy with this. This is really intricate. It's much more intricate than the Nintendo Switch I did, which was a lot of fun. All we need now is a color palette for this guy. So I'm going to go and find that, and I'll get back to you when I do. Okay, we found ourselves a little vector of a Game Boy and taken the basic colors from it. We can always color swap these out later if we're not 100% with them, but I'm okay for the meantime. What we're going to do is grab our entire Game Boy, minus these dudes. So we'll just shift them out of the way for now. And we're going to swap the colors to full black. Okie dokie. Good. All we need to do now is get started on coloring this guy. Now you can do it this way by just selecting all these individual elements. The reason I do that is because it then gets rid of the stroke as well. If you want to leave the stroke in and then just remove it all at the end, you can do that. It's up to you, really. I'm going to grab these dudes and I'm going to bring them over here and I'm going to start building, okay? The reason I like turning it black is that you don't have to hover specifically over those lines, okay? And you can just sort of grab anything that you need and start filling it out. I'm going to use these basic colors as much as I can. And then I'm going to start, if I need to, creating variations of them, okay? So making sure that we can ungroup everything. We shouldn't have any groups in here. Now, the important thing when coloring in something like this is that you make sure all of the elements that are the same color and on the same plane are the same color, the same shade of that color. Otherwise, it starts to look weird when you actually get to like the final product of it. So all the flat elements of this area here are going to need to be the same gray. Okay, and there you have it, our finished Game Boy. Looks pretty good to me. I know it took a while to get there, but I feel like it was worth every second. Thank you very much for joining me, everybody. I really appreciate you sticking around for this long. If you enjoyed this sort of in-depth, more advanced tutorial, let me know and I can do more of it. If you didn't, also let me know and that's fine as well. I'm just still trying to figure out, as my audience grows, what sort of content it is you want to see. So if you are interested in more, let me know. And hopefully I'll see you all next time on the next episode of TipTut.
Remember to subscribe for more tips, tricks, and tutorials. Thanks for watching.